Hey guys, Barry at CTech-review. We've got a fun one for you today. The 2025 Ram 1500 RHO to the 2025 Ford Superduty F-250 Tremor. Completely different machines, different purposes, but they've got some very unique things that are similar. And I kind of want to show you what these differences are if you're not familiar with both these trucks, but also want to show you why I'm selecting the comparison to these two trucks and why I think both of these trucks are the best value trucks in 2025 for the 1500 and 2500 series segment. Let's get into this. All right, let's see what that cold start on the 7.3 is like. All right, let's see what the cold start on the RHO is like now for comparison. Vroom, vroom. Some might say this is a bizarre comparison. They would not be wrong. My whole thing is, in this channel at CTech-review, is about getting people to think about what puts the most money in your pocket, what's the best value, and sometimes you got to think outside the box. And that's what I mean here. I didn't think I'd ever have myself in this truck, a 2025 Ram 1500 RHO, because I'm a Ford guy, but the value in this 2025 Ram 1500 RHO is really hard to beat. When you think about the motor that it comes with, the pricing you can get from dealers like Mark Dodge, this is a heck of a value truck. Hands-free driving, massaging seats, 540 horsepower. You can get a level 0 MSRP at 72 grand. You can get these trucks for like $64,000. That's a bargain. But then we've got, right next to it, a completely different animal. This is a 2025 Ford F-250 Superduty Tremor with the 7.3 liter Godzilla engine. Why am I comparing both these trucks? Well, you're first gonna notice these are both off-road-esque trucks. 1500 class, I think best in value today at the time of doing this video. And right here, I think this is one of the best value 2500 trucks available. Both these trucks come on 35-inch tires. The Ram's got the Goodyear Wrangler, and this is a 325/65 on an 18-inch wheel. And this has got the Goodyear Wrangler Duratrack, a 285/75, also 18-inch, but a little different tire. This is more of a mud terrain. Believe it or not, it's an all-terrain tire, but they would actually consider it almost like a mud terrain. If you look at the gapping between the tread and everything, it's an incredible tire, rain, snow, ice. Highly recommend this for off-road performance. Whereas this tire is a little closer gapped, a little bit better for as far as road noise and things of that nature, but it does not come with as good of off-road capability. Both these trucks have locking rear differentials. The Ram has got the beefy Dana 60 rear axle with a 5-link rear suspension, electronic locking with 392 gears. The Ford has a beefy, I think this is a 10.75-inch rear axle with an upgraded shock. It says, see the cool looking Tremor emblem on there, with a 430 gear ratio and electronic locking rear differential. Both these trucks have a little bit of functionality in the rear bumper where you can get in and out of the truck. I like this feature on the Ford when they went to this in 2023. I think it's a great feature. Rams did it a little bit differently. You just pull this out, step your foot up on, but same idea, gets in the back of the truck. But let's get into why I'm comparing these two trucks. My opinion, best in class 1500 off-road truck for the dollar for 2025. Best in class 2025, 2500 for the money in 2025. I'm a huge fan of the 7.3 liter Godzilla engine. It seems to be pretty solid. It's got great low end torque. The 10-speed trans is very well mated with it, but when you add the 430 gears that comes standard with the Tremor option, it really takes this thing not only to an off-road level that's awesome, but towing wise, it ups the numbers big time. The other reason I'm a fan of the Tremor, well, you got a limited slip front differential. So this truck has really a true 4-wheel drive system. Believe it or not, this has got an open front differential. So for an all around top traction, 4 wheels of traction, this is actually a little bit better setup. It's also got these off-road inspired running boards that come on the Raptor. But here's the big thing. $64,000 MSRP on this truck. Is that a lot of money? Absolutely is. But when you compare to other trucks in its class that come with a 35-inch tire, off-road inspired running boards, locking rear diff, front diff, and then the payload that comes with this, and then the discounts available, this is a truck here you're gonna be able to get for under $60,000. But there's more to the story of why I think this is the best in class off-roader, because you don't have to sacrifice any payload or any tow rating on the Ford Superduty Tremor. Let me show you. Right there, that's a big number, 3,356 pounds of payload. If we were to compare this truck to the Ram 2500 Power Wagon, we would see this probably has somewhere in the 1,500 to 2,000 pounds more payload capacity. But it comes at a little bit of a sacrifice. The Tremor is gonna ride a little stiffer than a Power Wagon. The Tremor won't have as good of axle articulation if you're gonna use this thing in a full off-road environment. The Tremor will not be as off-road capable. But if you're gonna take this truck and use it in general purpose off-road and you're not rock crawling or doing crazy stuff like this, you're gonna have 10,000 pounds more tow rating, and you're probably gonna have 2,000 pounds more payload capacity than the Ram 2500 Power Wagon. But then you might say, well, what about the Silverado ZR2 2500? An awesome truck. And in full fairness, in some ways, I actually prefer it to this truck for off-road capability because of the Multimatic shocks that come with it. But you're probably gonna spend about $12,000 to $13,000 more. So that's what we're trying to hone in on to. What is the best value truck? You also might say, wouldn't it be a lot more fair to compare a Platinum F350 with the high output versus the RHO? No, because this is a $100,000 truck and I'm trying to look at the best bang for the buck. $100,000, $36,000 more than the XLT. You might say, well, what about the Lariat F350 Tremor? $12,000 more, sweet truck, but for 12 grand, what are you really getting? You're getting LED headlights, a little bit nicer interior, leather seats for 12 grand more. I'd still go XLT. Does this truck have LED headlights? No, it does not. Luckily, there's a company called Last Fit that you can go and change your headlights, and actually I can put a link down below if you're interested and you had one of these Tremors, where you can go and upgrade your reflector headlights and swap out your bulbs. It's not even that expensive. Yes, you don't have the reflector LEDs from the higher trim package XLT, which you can get for an extra, I think it's like an extra $3,000 to $4,000. But if you're looking specifically for the best bang for the buck, this is darn near it. Okay, let's just look at the interior of these two trucks. Completely polar opposite animals here. This truck here is a level 1 truck. You can kind of see beautifully appointed leather interior, panoramic sunroof, soft touch dash. I mean, it's loaded out, all weather floor mats. Obviously front and rear cooled seats. Payload rating, 1,357 pounds. Now, how does that compare to the Ford XLT Tremor? Well, this is an XLT, keep this in mind. But you just have power seats, but these are actually very, very comfortable cloth seats. If you're looking for function, this truck's got the center console that folds up, so then you can actually put 6 people in here. A few more hard touch surfaces, but the advantage is here is price. But you still got the updated dash, you still got an 8-inch display, you don't have passive entry, but you do have a pretty nice infotainment system. And you got the awesome Godzilla engine. Still got good storage in here. This is a great truck. I mean, this is really not a bad setup at all for the money. No panoramic sunroof. You still might be confused. Why the heck am I comparing these two trucks? Because I'm looking at, if I want to drive one of these trucks 1, 2, 3 years for my specific needs, towing, I'm going to say 10 to 12,000 pound, 10,000 pound trailers and below. Because anything higher than that, I'm going to a 3,500 or F350. So I look at these as like, I'm pulling a 30, 35 foot travel trailer. You're gonna max out the RHO, or it's gonna be a light pull for the F250 Tremor, but you're still doing the same thing with just a different tool. Which one's gonna cost you more money in that 1 to 2 years of ownership? Both of these come from a different segment, 1,500, 2,500. But when you look at the cost of ownership and you do a case study comparison, they're very similar for cost of ownership. These Tremors hold their value incredibly. I've told people before, if you're gonna buy an F250, buy a Tremor if you want the best resale. The option, especially with the 7.3, getting the 430 gears, it wakes this engine up. You don't have a big sacrifice in fuel economy, maybe a mile per gallon, but the performance gained when towing and off-road, my opinion, I think it's worth it. And I've done a lot of videos towing comparison with the 7.3 Godzilla versus a Cummins. I'll put a link down below if you want to watch that. This motor has impressed the crap out of me for towing performance of small to medium-sized trailers. For the person that's pulling 15, 20,000 pound trailers and heavier all the time, probably not the tool for the choice. That's someone that's going to want a diesel or high output, maybe even a dually. But for the recreational user that uses a truck on a weekend warrior, pull a snowmobile trailer, pull a horse trailer, pull a travel trailer, 7.3 is really hard to beat. When I purchased my RHO, I was actually between these two trucks. Literally, XLT with cloth interior. Why? Because I think this is a better value for resale than the Lariat, believe it or not, especially for 2025, because the 2025 Tremor no longer has a leather interior, it's an ActiveX. At that point, you're reducing the gap, in my opinion, of value when you go from an XLT to a Lariat. You're paying $8,000 more for a lot of creature comforts, yes, but you are losing a leather interior for 2025. When you start looking at, you can get a level 0 truck for about 64 grand, or you could buy one of these trucks for about 60 grand. Man, what would you choose? 430 horsepower Godzilla natural aspirated V8, 540 horsepower Hurricane inline 6 twin turbo. But now we're gonna take both these trucks for a little ride. We're gonna do our mile per gallon loop, and we're just gonna see how do both of these trucks compare on our little loop for fuel economy. Does the big super heavy duty Tremor get smoked in fuel economy versus the Hurricane? We're gonna find out. Let's first start with the Tremor and let's see how this bad boy does. As you can see, this interior is very, very basic. No dual climate control, no adaptive cruise, but for someone looking for a high value, low cost truck, this would be a good option. We're going to reset our trip right now in the Tremor. We're gonna put the Tremor in what's called eco mode. This will get us the best fuel economy, and I think it's a comparison to the normal mode or standard mode that is in the Ram 1500 RHO. By the way, guys, if you're interested in this truck or any of these other nice Super Duties or F-150s, I'm gonna put the contact information below to Bob Maxxey here in Howell, Michigan. These guys have been moving a lot of inventory in trucks this year, and the salesperson I really enjoy working with is Josh Wisniewski. I've bought a few trucks from him in the past, Expeditions. Been really happy with these guys, and they are a no BS small town dealer that will take care of you guys. So it's gonna be fun to kind of compare the 7.3 to the high output Hurricane, because I have not been in a natural aspirated gas 7.3 in a minute, and I'm really curious to see how much am I losing out here by going to a 7.3 with 110 less horsepower and a little bit heavier truck. Now, one of the things you're gonna notice right off the bat is ride comfort. That's the big difference between going from a 1500 to a 2500. Especially in our roads here in Michigan, you feel the bumps a lot more on the road. This is a much stiffer sprung truck than the half ton. Okay, we're gonna see how this thing accelerates on the highway. You might also ask, Barry, why are you interested in the 7.3 versus the almighty powerful high output diesel? All right, by the way, let's take a look at this tack accelerating here. That's what I like about that Godzilla. We're accelerating right now. Nice normal clip. We're like 1600 RPMs right now. I love big low end power. I love not having to hear an engine rip to get up to speed. And it's one of the things I like about the 7.3 versus some of the other V8s in the market, is this thing doesn't have to rip high RPMs to get moving. And just like that, we're up to 70 miles an hour. Now I want to show you guys, we're sitting about 1700 RPM or so at 70 miles an hour in the 7.3 Godzilla. So we're gonna get off the halfway point here. One thing I want to kind of show you guys, look at these engine coolant temps. 185 to 193 is what I'm typically seeing. Trans temps, it's warming up a little bit, but 176 at the moment. Oil temps 194. I'll be curious when we finish this what these numbers land at. Now I'm getting on it a little bit more. See that 23 to 2500 RPM acceleration, and just like that, we're up to speed. What's funny is driving this truck, I think it's gonna feel a lot different, especially going around this corner versus the RHO, because this thing has got so much more of a stiffer suspension. You're not going to get the body roll that you would get with the RHO. Okay, Okay, same spot on the road. We're gonna compare fuel economy right here. About 70, 68 miles an hour right now. And we are getting, I'm gonna say about, man, that looks probably about 12, 13 at a steady state right here, 70. We got no one behind us, no one at the side, but they're not drafting off of us. So our loop had to be modified a little bit because of construction going on, which will be good because this will give us a little bit more accurate numbers because we're gonna get a little bit more highway and we're gonna get a little bit more mixed driving to see how these trucks compare for fuel economy. All right, we are pulling back in here at Bob Maxxey. Let's see where the fuel economy ended up on the 2025 Ford Superduty Tremor. Okay, there we go, guys. 13.7 miles per gallon over 29.4 miles. Now I want to show you something here too. Information. Look at our temps. 191 coolant. Look at the trans temp, 207. Kind of interesting because we just did a towing comparison on the RHO versus the Expedition recently, and I was kind of surprised at how much difference, how much cooler the transmission on the Ram runs. But you could see not towing, 207 Fahrenheit for the trans temp. All right, now let's place our bets and see what we get for fuel economy. Do the exact same thing with the Ram 1500 RHO. Completely different interior, no question about it. Obviously more premium because this is a loaded out version, where that's kind of more the bare bones version. We're going to go into our fuel economy here. I think it's going to be really close for fuel economy on this test. Let's reset our main fuel economy and let's go do our loop. By the way, drive modes, we are in auto, which is kind of just the standard version, kind of like the Eco. A little bit different acceleration and definitely a different sound. As far as road comfort, there's definitely an improvement in road comfort with the half-ton RHO versus the Ford F-250 Tremor. No surprise, it's not a 3/4 ton truck, it's a half-ton, so it's going to be a little bit softer ride. Okay, we're going to compare the performance and the acceleration here on the RHO with the high output Hurricane versus the 7.3. Just like that, we're about to get onto the highway and merge in. I've said this in many other videos. If you watch the channel, I'll put a link down below. If you want to see more RHO specific content and Tremor content, I'll have links to both. I'm a huge fan of this Hurricane engine. I think it's phenomenal. The low end torque of this thing. If you've ever had a Cummins diesel or an inline 6-cylinder turbo, you kind of can understand this like low end grunt this motor makes. I just love it. I think it's great. And there's a lot of great engines in the market today, but this is one of my favorite for as far as smoothness and low end torque. And then you mix in the ZF 8-speed transmission with this thing, it's just truly phenomenal. It's a great performance engine. And so far at almost, at the time of this video, what, 11,000 miles on the RHO, we've not had any issues with this engine powertrain. It's been perfect. No weird, not one transmission flare shift, nothing. And we've got lots of towing and some off-road use. We're 70 miles an hour. And if you see our RPMs, we're at about, I'm gonna say 1,800 RPMs, 1,900 RPMs at 70 miles an hour. This is kind of good to note because you can kind of see the difference between the 430 gears with the 10-speed trans and the Godzilla and the high output Hurricane with the 392 gears and the 8-speed trans with the Hurricane. Okay, going to get off at the highway at the halfway point here. So far, just some notes. Road noise. Actually, believe it or not, I think maybe it's just because those dirt tracks are brand new. I think there's slightly less tire hum, but wind noise and road noise otherwise, I think it's a little less in the RHO. No surprises, a premium interior cabin versus more of the base level XLT cabin. I'm sure if we were in a Lariat or in a higher trim level in a Tremor, we would see that same road noise and wind noise cut down. But acceleration wise, the Hurricane revs up a little easier as expected than the 7.3. Now here's the one spot I wanted to kind of compare. What is it like going around this little corner as far as a comparison? Little bit more body lean, body roll in the Hurricane, or I should say the RHO, going around that corner, but not bad. To be fair, I do have airbags on the back of the RHO, which will stiffen up the rear end a little bit and probably remove a little bit of the sway. Plus, in full fairness, it probably makes it a little stiffer in the rear right now than just the standard RHO. Same spot on the highway here. You can kind of see the difference. Maybe 3 miles per gallon, 4 miles per gallon better with the RHO than the Tremor at these speeds. By the way, look what's behind us right now. It's so cool to see someone with a TRX actually towing. I rarely see people with TRXs actually using them as a truck. All right, we're gonna get off at the RHO on the highway section of this trip. Some notes: I haven't done this MPG loop in a while. And I can tell you right now, I don't know if it's, I've gotten more miles on the RHO now. It's broken in more. Guys, right here, this is where this Hurricane shines. Check this out, 28 miles per gallon, 26 at 52 miles an hour going down the road. I mean, just incredible. So if you drive these trucks chill, lower RPMs, going down this without much road resistance, you're gonna get this awesome fuel economy with the high output Hurricane. Pulling back in here to Bob Maxxey, let's see what we get for fuel economy with the high output Hurricane RHO. There we go, 29.2 miles, 16.9 miles per gallon with the RHO. All right, check this out, 12.9 miles per gallon. The last time we did one of these loops versus a 2025 Ford F-150 Tremor. Okay, 13.7 miles per gallon with the 2025 Ford Superduty Tremor with the 7.3 Godzilla, or 16.9 miles per gallon with the 2025 Ram 1500 RHO with the high output Hurricane. Number one, that's impressive. That's almost a 3 mile per gallon improvement I've seen since we did our first loops. I've heard in discussions of other videos where people talk about these engines breaking in. Well, that kind of shows it to me. Maybe it's the warm weather, it's 90 degrees out today. Regardless, which to go with? Man, they're both awesome trucks. Here's my question for you. Whole point of this video is comparing trucks that need a little bit of off-road capability. You're gonna tow small to medium-sized trailers. You're also looking at resale. Which one total cost of ownership would be the best for you? Put 50, 60,000 miles in this truck, 50, 60,000 miles in this truck, or better yet, put 150,000 miles in this truck, 150,000 miles on the RHO. Which one do you think would have better resale, and which one do you think would be better for maintenance? Natural aspirated V8 with a low pressure fuel system, twin turbo inline 6-cylinder with a high pressure fuel system. There are things I like about both of these trucks, and it's why, even though they're total opposites, they were high on my radar when I look at my hard-earned money. I pay for these vehicles myself. Which one cost me the least amount of money? That's why I went with the RHO for 2025. And then someone might ask, well, Barry, this is kind of a silly comparison. Why didn't you have the F-150 Tremor versus the F-250 Tremor? Well, because for me, I think the F-250 Tremor is a better value with the 7.3 liter versus the Ford F-150 with the 5 liter Coyote. When you look at what you pay MSRP for a 2025 F-150, with the Coyote and a Tremor, this is a better bang for the buck for the money. Then you might say, well, why didn't you compare a Rebel, not an RHO, versus the Tremor? Because this is a better value. And you might say, well, it's more money than a Rebel. It is, but when you start looking at the discounts and what you get and what you pay for, I think the RHO is actually a little bit better value than the Rebel. And I've got a video, I actually do this full two video series comparing Rebel versus RHO. Today's video, the entire point of this is RHO versus F250 Tremor XLT. And I think these are the two highest value trucks for half-ton and 3/4-ton truck segment for 2025 at the time of doing this video. Guys, I hope you find this video helpful. Leave your comments down below. I'm curious what you think. Based on a dollar value perspective, bang for the buck, what would you go with? Why would you go with it? And am I totally crazy on these two comparisons here? That's how I look at it, and I think for the value, these are the two top leaders right now at the time of this video. Hey, I hope you enjoy the video. If you do, feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.